All right, I haven't checked social media in the last few minutes. Can you tell me, have the Red Sox apologized to Kyrie Irving yet? Have they promised to find the guilty fan and ban him for life? Have they said they feel awful about their sordid history of hate and racism and how this city has got a lot of sins still to pay for? Have the Red Sox, John Henry made that clear yet? Because we know street signs haunt him when he finds out that there was subtle racism at the Boston Garden for Celtics games. I'm sure he won't be able to sleep for a week. I'm going to check. We'll get to that. We'll get to Kyrie. I got more important questions, but we'll get to Kyrie's comments and the favor he did to who's got the game Friday night? Is it TNT?
I got to imagine it's TNT.
The favor he did for TNT, because it is the most lifeless, boring, suspenseless first-round series, Celtics-Nets. And after the Nets blew out the Celtics in Game 2, Kyrie said, "You know what? I'll do them a favor and make this game a little more interesting."
Oh no, we're going network TV. It's on ABC on Friday.
Oh, it's on ABC. Right. Good. Because I mean, I don't think anybody was really planning on watching. It's just kind of pathetic. The Celtics have rolled over. They gave up 71 points in the first half last night, and it was embarrassing. And they're, all the usual guys, Kyrie, Kendrick Perkins was saying how embarrassed they were to watch, and it was embarrassing. And after the game, if you haven't heard, Kyrie said he's hoping he won't hear any subtle racism when he comes to Boston. But I want to get to that. First, I got to get to this, though, because I've made a vow, and you and I kind of argued about it. I don't know when it was. A few months ago, I said, I will never say anything bad, anything negative about John Cena. I said, John Cena holds the world record, the official world record for granting the most make-a-wish wishes to kids, to sick kids, to kids who are dying, who want to meet him, who want to pretend to wrestle him, whatever. He's a very gracious, very charitable guy. The town of, is it Newbury or Newburyport? I can never keep it straight.
West Newbury, I believe.
West Newbury, the town of West Newbury.
You're not going to beat me with wrestling trivia. I got it.
Springfield College, they should be very proud of this man. And he went on to an amazing career in Hollywood, made a fortune. Although I just looked up his net worth, it says $60 million. That sounds a little light to me. It sounds like, that's 3 movies for this guy. But anyways, a huge star in wrestling in Hollywood. He threw it all away yesterday. He literally lost people like me, who I don't know anything about wrestling. I would never watch it. Wrestling's for morons and children and Callahan. But as I know, I saw some of his movies. I saw that movie Marine. I like those just basic,
He is a worse actor than Rob Gronkowski. Like he is that fucking bad. He is horrible. He was awful in that, what was that one? Amy Schumer movie, right? He was her boyfriend.
No, he was not awful in that movie. He was funny. He was the best supporting guy. She dated other guys in that movie. What was that movie called? It was a Judd Apatow movie. I wanted to hate it. I didn't. John Cena in the movie theater, he made me laugh out loud. He was excellent in that movie. What's it called? Did you just look it up?
I'm looking it up right now.
But anyway, he just seemed like a decent guy, a guy. Trainwreck.
There you go.
Thank you to our YouTube commenters. But he seemed like a decent guy, easy to root for, even though he's not exactly Dustin Hoffman. But anyway, good guy, local guy, charitable guy. That's over. He is pathetic. He is a pathetic little coward, and I don't want. I know I'm jumping on the piling on. But I'm telling you, I've watched this a couple times. I've tried to make sense of it, and I can't come up with a comparison. There's never been a celebrity, a actor, an athlete who groveled like this, groveled as prominently, as humiliatingly as John Cena did yesterday to the Communist Party of China. It is truly, if you haven't seen it yet, you got to see it to believe it. And I got a bunch of questions about it. We're going to play it in a second, but I have to wonder what, at the end of the day yesterday, today, when there's this fallout, when his reputation in the minds and the hearts of a lot of people. I mean, I realize not like all the brain dead wrestling fans or 9-year-old boys, but in the minds of a lot of people, a lot of Americans, I would say millions of Americans, his reputation went up in flames. He's an embarrassment. When I see him now, when I hear his name, I'm going to think of a guy who is just spineless, who is scared, who is, I guess, trying to save his own paycheck. I don't even know what he's getting for Fast and Furious 9, the movie that is out that he's trying to save in the Chinese market. But it would be one thing. Here's how bad it is.
Well, they said it's already made. I don't know if it's the buying tickets in advance. It said it's already made like 140 million in China.
And I heard they estimate they could make $1 billion. But it's just a stupid, mindless car crash movie, big budget movie as in the franchise. It's hard to believe there are 9 of them. I don't think I've seen any. Is this the one that started with Paul Walker?
Yes.
Before he died?
Paul Walker, Vin Diesel.
Now that should have been part of the movie, him crashing his Porsche.
Oh,
But Vin Diesel, whatever. Who else is in it? Rock was in it.
Yep.
I mean, I've never seen any of them, but big market, a lot of money at stake. But John Cena also has something else at stake, and that would be his reputation, his manhood. And he pissed that all away. And he didn't do it in subtle, didn't do it in a subtle way. He didn't release a statement. Hell, he didn't even do what LeBron James did when LeBron James defended the Communist Party of China, or Colin Kaepernick when they defend the country that the modern day country that has slaves, that is committing genocide. They defend that country for their own business reasons, to protect their own paycheck, their own salaries, whatever. He did it in such dramatic and obsequious fashion. I don't think anyone's going to forget it. I don't think anyone is ever going to look at John Cena again and not have a little bit of a cringe when they think of what he did here, what he did doing this apology. There's two things that make it the most humiliating thing I've ever seen. And I'll ask the commenters on YouTube, Cullinane, for anything that compares to this. I can't think of anything. And again, I go to LeBron apologizing to the communists, anything close to this as for my high profile celebrity that completely humiliates himself before the world. That's what it is. It's international. He's a huge star, and it is humiliating in every way. I know he's got a bunch of brothers, a bunch of family, in Massachusetts on the North Shore, probably has buddies from. Did any of them call him and say, don't do it? Because did his agent, did anybody try to stop him? Did Vince McMahon, does he still listen to Vince McMahon?
I'm sure he still has input in John Cena's life.
Vince, why didn't you stop him? Your biggest star now looked more pathetic, looked more wimpy than Chris Harrison from the Bachelor. That could have been the last person to completely humiliate himself. But that's, one thing is the way he did it. I mean, he did it in Mandarin, if you haven't seen it. And he did it with his whole heart and soul poured into it. Like, there wasn't a sense that he was being forced at gunpoint, by the producers of the movie. There was a sense that he was willing to do this. He genuinely is apologizing. And then when you think about it, what's his offense? When you ask the question, what did he do to force this to lead to this moment where he completely prostrates himself, whatever the word is, just completely lays himself bare for the world? He said in passing that Taiwan was a country. Well, I got news for you, Cena. Whatever. He doesn't have a nickname either. No good nickname for John Cena. I thought he was a wrestler.
No, he's John Cena. That's just his name, John Cena.
His name's John. How does that even work? That doesn't have. Why didn't someone pull him aside and tell him you're
by the way, his character was like a rapper to start. He's like a hood guy. He was one of the biggest earners in WWE history.
Right, biggest earners. Well, I guess money cannot buy balls. Money cannot buy integrity. It cannot buy a spine, because he has none of those things. And I was embarrassed for him. Like I said, I always think of the things he does for Make-A-Wish. And by the way, I think there's a certain Barstool podcast host who's making a run at John Cena because he just granted the biggest Make-A-Wish wish of all time. He made some poor kid his producer. I mean,
oh boy, look at you! Look at you! You said that one. You had that one ready to go. Love it. Love to hear that one. Well, hold on. I will say this because you said I don't have an incident to compare this to for sure. If there is one, and I'll put John Cena in the mega star category. He's not The Rock, but he's damn near freaking close. And wrestling's a global sports entertainment company. If there's one person to get through something like this, correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be the guy who just completed his 600th Make-A-Wish. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be the most charitable human being on the planet, potentially. Don't you think?
That's true, but I'll never look at him the same again. I'll never think of him. He's just not a man. He's not a man. He's a wrestler and he's an actor, but he's not a man. I mean, he's a coward. What he did was cowardly. What he did was pathetic. What he did proved that he can't stand up to someone, whether it's a movie guy or his agent or whatever, and do the right thing. This is not the right thing. That doesn't make you look like you have any integrity at all. You said Taiwan's a country. I hate to break it to you, Johnny. Taiwan is a country. You said nothing wrong. You said nothing offensive. You upset your paymasters in China and you rolled over for them and you did countless limitless damage to your brand in the United States and beyond. I mean, the movie will do fine. The movie will do fine in Wuhan, but in the rest of the world, they're going to look at you every time you speak and cringe. I mean, I realize this probably, the late night comics probably won't rip you apart because, you're on the same team as they are. They support communist China as well. But for the most part, normal people, average people, middle of America people, they're going to be disgusted at the sight of you. This, again, is not some guy just saying, oh, I'm sorry, just to get through it. I'm sorry if I offended anybody. Like Chris Harrison, for example, or you name it, the people who apologize for saying, all lives matter, or people who apologize for nothing. This is a guy who apologizing for offending a communist regime that has slaves, that has forced labor camps, trying to commit genocide, who had one child policy, who by the way, who also released a virus to the world which killed over 3 million people, including 600,000 Americans, and covered it up and lied about it. He's talking about the Communist Party of China, and he's apologizing for promoting the movie and saying Taiwan is the first country to see the movie. That's it. He didn't say those sons of bitches, killed my grandfather with that virus. How dare they? He didn't say something like that. He said Taiwan's a country. The fact that he would roll over for that, I'm telling you, Colin, and maybe I'm wrong. I overestimate the passion of wrestling fans or Americans in general. But I don't think anyone's.
People are going to forget about this very quickly.
Well, I'm not. I mean, you know what? People didn't forget about LeBron James, who defended the Chinese Communist Party when Daryl Morey tweeted in the fall of 2019, I think it was October 2019, an innocent, I think it was a photo of something like a meme, and he tweeted, defend democracy or defend the freedom fighters in Hong Kong. That's it. Defend the people in Hong Kong who were under siege from a tyrannical communist government, and they were defending themselves, and he supported them. That's it. By the way, he lost his job, and LeBron James, this pathetic, gutless coward, LeBron James said, people got to educate themselves. I don't know if you have the LeBron James sound. To his credit, he did it in English. He didn't do it in Mandarin. But I heard it again last night, and I couldn't believe it. This is a guy who's going to be worth $1 billion. The guy who's, does not need the money, does not need to placate China, but he does anyway. Again, Daryl Morey's defending people fighting for freedom, fighting for democracy in Hong Kong. And LeBron says, oh, no, you have to educate yourself. It's despicable.
We all talk about this freedom of speech. Yes, we all do have freedom of speech. But at times there are ramifications for the negative that can happen when you're not thinking about others and you're only thinking about yourself. So I don't believe, I don't want to get into a word or sentence feud with Daryl Morey, but I believe he wasn't educated on the situation at hand, and he spoke, and so many people could have been harmed, not only financially but physically, emotionally, spiritually. So just be careful what we tweet and we say and what we.
Okay, that now I'm going to say Cena's comments, and we'll play them, are dumber and more embarrassing. That is incredible. What he just said is incredible. When you're only thinking of yourself, Daryl Morey defended the people of Hong Kong who were fighting for their lives against this evil regime in China. And this moron, LeBron James, says he's only thinking of himself and he needs to be educated. All he did was say defend democracy. And this guy says he's uneducated and selfish. The fact that LeBron James still has one fan out there is amazing. He's such an awful, awful human being, and he's stupid too. That's just so stupid. Well, I mean, he should be, if you want, stay out of it, LeBron. But you're defending the Chinese Communist Party over Hong Kong, and you're criticizing a free man, an American, who says defend the guys, defend the underdog here, who's outnumbered and fighting for freedom, fighting for democracy. And he says there are ramifications if you're only thinking of yourself.
This should just be your beat, right? Because Clay Travis just probably made what, like $50 million selling to Fox News, and his one issue in life is LeBron James and China. You should be John Cena in China and sell.
Right, I'll be John Cena.
25 million.
I'll be John Cena. We'll get to that. Just to set it up in case people don't know, the movie Fast and Furious 9 came out, and I guess Cena, doesn't have a lot of, discretion when he picks his scripts, because I mean and I guess this is going to make a lot of money. He's going to make a lot of money, and I don't know. I can't believe anyone's going to actually watch it, but whatever. And he was excited because Taiwan's the first country to see it. That's it. That's all he did. And someone got to him and said, "You can't do that. China doesn't consider Taiwan, an island nation, a country. They consider them property of the Chinese Communist Party." And that's all he needed to hear. You can't do that. It jeopardizes the franchise in the biggest market in the world. And I believe the Chinese market now for movies, I believe last year was the first year, I wonder why, that they had a bigger box office return in China than the United States. Another, another benefit from sending a virus, a deadly virus, around the world, and taking all the measures to protect your country while destroying the economies across the West, is you had more people go to the movies than we did. And they went, and this year they'll do it again, and they'll go to Fast and Furious 9 because Cena apologized. And he didn't just apologize, like do the old Ryan Leaf thing, take the piece of paper and say, "Yeah, I'm sorry if I offended anyone."
No, he strikes me as one, he's a yes man, right? He's told what to do, and he says
he's a godless, spineless slug.
He's probably like, "Oh no, I can do it better than what you just suggested." So they probably just want him to release a statement, as publicist, and he's no, I'm going to do a video. This is how I'm going to do it. It's going to go over really well.
And can you tell me again? I know about Cena, what I read or what I Google. I don't ever watch him. I don't know anything about his person. Can he actually speak Mandarin, or can he read? Obviously, he can read it.
It wouldn't shock me. He seems like, just from his commitment to his craft, it seems like he's the type of guy that if they're making a lot of money, overseas or wherever, he's learning about their culture. He does seem to be that type of guy. So it wouldn't shock me if he did.
All right. Enough. Let's listen to John Cena, the biggest coward in the world right now, and a guy I hope will never, ever get over this. Will never recover from this.
你好，中国，这是叫西娜。我必须说，现在，在《速度与激情》中，我做很多采访，很多，所以在一个采访，我有一个错误，所有人问我，如果我可以用中文，速度与激情中人给我很多。
You got the transcript on you, Gerry? Because
I do, and it's amazing. If you want to hear, I got the interpreter right there. He says it didn't hurt that much. Xi Jinping used lube when he bent me over, and he did give me a little grab at the same time. So it was not so bad. It wasn't as bad as I thought. And if he wants me to, do it again if he wants me to, pleasure him again. I will. It's what I do for money. I am sorry I offended these murderous, tyrannical, communist monsters. Please forgive me, Xing Xiang Pi. Please forgive me. I won't do it again. Let me tickle you. Oh God, this is so embarrassing.
Sounds
This
good
is
doing
so
it.
所以很多采访，很多 information，我有一个错误，我必须说现在就是很重要，我爱更尊重中国，更中国人，我很抱歉对我的错误，对不起，我很抱歉，你必须了解，我。很爱.
Hey, he knows the language
hung.
really well, obviously. Wow.
Hung means I promise, sir, Xi Jinping, I promise you, murderous dictator, I promise I will never, ever offend you again. Please don't do anything. Taiwan, blow it off the map for all, send another virus to them, kill them all for all I care. Screw the Taiwanese. We got a movie to promote. God, what a shameless, pathetic, spineless slug. Here is the actual words he said, at least some of them. Let me begin with the only sentence you really need to hear. Quote, I made one mistake. That's what he said. I made one. He didn't make a mistake. He didn't. His only mistake was offending the Chinese Communist Party. I made one mistake, says Cena. I have to say something very, very, very important now. I love and respect China and the Chinese people. I'm very, very sorry about my mistake. I apologize. I'm very sorry. You must understand that I love, really respect China and the Chinese people. My apologies. I'm sorry. I as someone who lives in the same state with this guy, I'm embarrassed. I'm humiliated. As someone who used to think he was a man, I'm humiliated. This is the most embarrassing thing. Do we have any nominations for anything that compares to what this guy just did? Anything that compares to stripping down and bending over for communist tyrants because you said Taiwan is a country, because you said a country is a country? He did everything but say, I believe in enslaving Uyghur Muslims. Those people are no good anyway. I believe in wiping them out as a people. I believe in forced sterilization of the Uyghur Muslim women. Was that on your script, John Cena? Did you have that on the script that was sent to you from the commies, that you must support genocide of Uyghur Muslims? What about saying, you know what? Donald Trump was wrong. The virus came from a pangolin. He lied. Is there anything else you won't do for these people to save, whatever, a few $100 million at the box office for this crappy movie? And by the way, I hope every American says, screw this guy and screw the whole franchise. I'm done. Fast and Furious 8. That was my limit. I'm not going to 9. No more number 9 for Fast and Furious. F this guy.
Well, I want to say, I part of me wants to say it really will have no impact long term, but it does seem like, look at the NBA ratings. Even in the playoffs, the ratings are absolutely dismal. That it does feel like a lot of the stuff that's going on in the world, the politics that they're bringing into it, it's having an impact. So I don't know. Maybe it does impact people's.
And again, it's not like he's apologizing to Belarus.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does Belarus do anything? Do they have any human rights violations that I should know about? It's not like he's apologizing to, Portugal. He's apologizing to the country that sent this virus, that released this virus on the world. He's apologizing to the country that has sterilized women who happen to be a particular ethnic minority. He's apologizing to a country that has the boot of communism on the throat of these people, and he's not supporting them. It's let's see, we got I'm going to give you the numbers if you want the numbers. The latest, I haven't done this in a few days. The latest, John Cena, 3.5 million deaths, 3,501,443 deaths worldwide, 168 million people infected with the virus made in a lab in Wuhan and released upon the world. They covered it up. They lied about it. They said it didn't go person to person for the first month or two, made things much, much worse. Sent, by the way, people from Wuhan around the world. So someday, and obviously I'm not saying this as fact now, but someday there'll be someone who makes the case that China did this whole thing on purpose. I'm just going to predict that some person, some scholar out there, some scientist, some expert will say he has proof they did this on purpose. That regime, those people, John Cena is really afraid of offending. Really afraid of offending and apologizing, and not just apologizing in their language. So the 1.4 billion Chinese who might have been offended that he called Taiwan a country, they feel better, and they're going to run out to their theater because they get to go to movies because they don't have a virus problem and a shutdown and a lockdown. They get to go to movies, and they're all going to rush out to see Fast and Furious 9.
By the way, I'm not negative like you. You're a negative human being. I turn everything into a positive. This is an issue that can bring people together finally. Both sides of the aisle absolutely despise John Cena now. When Gerry Callahan is saying the same thing as Keith Olbermann, we have finally come together.
What did my man KO have to say? I did not see.
He said such gutlessness from John Cena. Just thought that was just his tweet. Such gut.
Is that what he said? He didn't do one of those videos out on his veranda on Central Park with his $20 million condo and do one of his crazy videos. No. But good. It should unite everyone. There's only one defense of John Cena. I'll tell you what it was. I heard it from my man Greg Gutfeld, who was good on it. Greg Gutfeld said in a really passionate rant that China killed his father-in-law. China killed his wife's father. He died of coronavirus. And what else? Who else do you blame? Donald Trump. They created it in a lab. They let it escape to the world. It spread around the world. It killed 3.5 million people so far. It's their fault. They did this. Those people, John Cena is afraid of offending. If this were some, actor that's, a more sensitive type, shall we say, if this were, I don't know, who would be, if this were Carson Kressley, you'd say, I understand he's very sensitive and emotional guy, doesn't want to upset people. This is supposed to be the manliest man in the world.
No, Cena's a dweeb. Cena's a big
supposed to be. I watched The Marine. He kicked ass. Okay.
He's a dweeb in real life. He's like Nickelodeon's darling, right? It's John Cena, then it's Rob Gronkowski. He's a dweeb in real life. It's not.
Well, I don't care. He's not a dweeb. Dweebs are not even dweebs grovel like this. Not even dweebs. But here's the one defense of Cena, I will say. In his life off the whatever screen, out of the ring, he doesn't normally dump on his own country. He's not ripping it, saying, we're all racist and it's systemic racism and it's unfair and they're hunting, black men in the streets. That's LeBron James's thing. So the one thing you can't accuse Cena of is bowing to the Chinese Communist Party while at the same time criticizing his own country, this great country. That is even more disgusting. And that's what people like LeBron James and Colin Kaepernick do. That makes what they do worse. I mean, he's honestly, and he's not the only one. I mean, Joe Biden does it. He's the one that talked about different norms. When he was asked about genocide, he said they have different norms. Adam Silver, the most pathetic commissioner, the worst commissioner, he's overseeing the absolute downfall of his league. If you've seen the ratings, I mean, last year they had a little summer league tournament and the ratings were better then than they are now. And even with Kyrie Irving's help, this Celtics Nets series might have the worst ratings in years. But Adam Silver said, we have different idea of how things should be done in our country than they do. That's his description of a country that enslaves ethnic minorities, forces them to do hard labor or, make sneakers for Colin Kaepernick, kills them, forced sterilization. Those people, that's a different way of doing things, according to Adam Silver. That's a different norm, according to Joe Biden. These are people who do not hesitate to criticize this country, who do not hesitate to say this country is, built on slavery and systemic racism and everything else, and turn around and won't criticize the country, the communist country that has modern day concentration camps. At least Cena, in his defense, doesn't do that. He doesn't hate this country. He just thinks, that China's so important that he will apologize for nothing. And I'm telling you, John Cena will never ever recover. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to watch Fast and Furious 9, and I'm not going to watch his next wrestling show either. How's that? I'm not. Is it?
You're not going to watch his big comeback at WrestleMania next year?
I am not. When is that? Is it Monday night?
No, I have no idea. I don't know. He'll come back eventually, though.
Okay, I'm not going to watch his comeback. I'm not going to support him. I'm not going to talk about his amazing record with Make-A-Wish ever again. He's
650 Make-A-Wishes that he's
yeah.
done.
They all went up in smoke. Those kids are like, I got another wish. Can I change my mind? That guy's pathetic. That's not my
charity, human rights, charity. We gotta weigh the pros and the cons here.
Yeah. I got a question for you, John Cena. What do you think if you gave the million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps, if you gave them a wish, what do you think they would wish for? To go to one of your wrestling shows, to go see Fast and Furious 72? No, they would wish for, I don't know, freedom. They would wish to live like an American or a Taiwanese person for now, not for long, but for now. And you don't care. You are just pathetic. The town of West Newbury today weeps. They weep. They should put the flag at half staff in West Newbury out at Springfield College, because your reputation has died a very ugly death.
Isn't it amazing how many smart people there have to be in Hollywood and public relations and all these people, and they thought that was a good idea? Why wouldn't you just see what happens? Just ignore it and see what happens.
What if he? I know I'm looking at a story right now that said it could, if he didn't apologize. This is from Breitbart, and it said if he didn't apologize, it could cost them $1 billion at the box office, and they're that big a market.
Yep.
That it could have lost billions. NBC Universal and WWE could have lost billions, because what they do is they target you and they boycott you, and the people don't, the government does. So we can't show that wrestling show. We can't show that movie. Sorry, you're out. That's what they do. I mean, they did it with the NBA. They didn't show Rockets games because the GM defended freedom. He's uneducated and he was only looking out for himself, but he defended freedom, so they stopped showing Rockets games. That's how they do it. They don't put it to a vote, in case you haven't noticed. But what if he just, again, released a statement, said, sorry if I offended anyone, one of the lame kind of Hollywood apologies? Or what if he did a statement in English? Would that have not been as effective? They got it subtitles. Doing it in Mandarin is the most embarrassing thing he might as well had a ball gag in his mouth and his hands tied behind his back and buck naked with G sitting there with a little whip. That would have been no more embarrassing than this. I made a mistake by calling a country a country. Just amazing. He'll never recover, and he shouldn't. This is a new low for a big star in this country. And I wonder what the next person's going to do if they offend the commies in China. Speaking of offending, we got to get to the latest news, the big news after last night's. We mentioned it earlier. After last night's pathetic performance by the Boston Celtics in Brooklyn against the Nets, Kyrie Irving and the Nets blew out the Celtics, scored 71 points in the first half, had a 24-point lead, set all kinds of records for one-sided, lopsided losses for a once proud Celtic franchise. They got one more game Friday night in Boston, not in front of a full house, because as we know from our governor, the scary virus is still spreading. Unless you only have 1/3 capacity. Once you have full capacity, it all changes. But on the 29th, that would be Saturday, I believe. Is that right?
Yep.
You're allowed to have full capacity. So if they played a fourth game, they could have a full crowd. But it's a third game, and it's before the deadline that our governor sent. So it's what is it? A quarter capacity? What's this? Something like that. 25%. Anyway. that crowd is going to be loud. They'll boo Kyrie every time he touches the ball, but they've been put on alert. Security, the cops, the media put on alert because Kyrie said last night that sometimes you get, when you're in Boston, you get subtle racism from the crowd. Can we listen to this dink Kyrie Irving after last night's game?
I mean, it's not my first time being an opponent in Boston. So, I'm just looking forward to competing with my teammates. And, hopefully we can just keep it strictly basketball. There's no belligerence or any racism going on, subtle racism and people yelling from the crowd. But even if it is, it's part of the nature of the game. And we're just going to focus on what we can control.
Is it something you've experienced in Boston before?
I'm not the only one that could attest to this, but it's just, it won't. It is what it is.
The whole world knows. Now, of course, what's her name? Rachel Nichols doesn't press him on it. Again, what you'll hear from, I assume, the Celtics, you heard from Brad Stevens, is, there are bad apples everywhere. He just made that up. I'm just going to say, you could tell he just made it up. I mean, he doesn't have an example. I mean, he said he's been an opponent many times. And I will explain, and I know we'll be accused, as we always are, oh yeah, there's no racists at the Garden. There's no racists that have said something racist to Kyrie Irving. They haven't said something racist to another player in front of Kyrie Irving. It hasn't happened. I don't believe it. If he did, he would have pointed it out. He would have screamed bloody murder. He would have given you an example.
That person would have got the shit kicked out of him, and then it would have been in the newspaper the next day.
But he knows there's no repercussions for this. He can say whatever he wants. He can lay it out there, and he knows most of the media will support him. He knows the owners, maybe not as much as the Red Sox owners. I mean, the Red Sox will probably issue an apology any minute now and say they believe every word Kyrie says, because nobody disparages their own fans like the Boston Red Sox. Nobody fails to support their own fans, their own customers, more than the Boston Red Sox. Anytime anyone makes up something about their fans, they take the side of the accuser. They don't care. Jussie Smollett could say, someone yelled the N-word at the Red Sox, and the Red Sox said, "We're so sorry. Of course we believe it. We believe." They said they believed Torrey Hunter, who made up the most absurd story about kids chanting the N-word and parents cheering them on. Just made it up. Everybody knows he made it up. They know. John Henry knows. Sam Kennedy knows. And yet they support him, take the side of the guy making up the story against their own fans. It's disgusting. I don't think the Celtics owners are that bad, but they might be afraid of bad PR somehow, because we know the media loves this stuff, and they might say, we know there's a history here. What history? There's no franchise more advanced, more progressive than the Boston Celtics. They had the first head coach, black head coach, Bill Russell. They had the first starting five, all black starting five. They had a GM and an icon who was famously colorblind and Red Auerbach. There's no history at all. Just because Larry Bird was really good, that's what you're going to hear. I've already seen it on the comments that, oh yeah, Larry Bird, they love Larry Bird. They wouldn't love Magic Johnson. Bullshit. They would love that Magic Johnson. They would love Michael Jordan. They would probably wouldn't love LeBron because no one loves him, but you know what I mean.
I mean, nobody's saying we're the nicest people in the world, right? We have a little asshole.
Right, that's the whole point.
Yep.
That's the whole point, is this is how they react. The crowd gets on someone like Torrey Hunter or
no one is more deserving to take shit on Friday night than Kyrie Irving. He flat out lied to a very dedicated, passionate sports fan base. He said he's coming back and re-signing. He completely turns the tables the next year and heads back with Durant and goes with Durant. Nobody deserves it. He was hiding from the fans, right? Like borderline faking injuries in some cases. Like just completely deserves to get
He's the most unlikable guy. I mean, not John Cena level, but he is a superstar, an incredibly talented guy, and a totally self-absorbed weirdo who you can't count on. I mean, it's hard to believe that they got him and got rid of him. When you watch him play, you say he's so good. Why would you? because he destroys your team from within if he feels like it. If he feels like playing, he'll play hard and he'll play unselfishly and you'll win. But when he starts pouting or when he starts sulking, you're in trouble. And we saw that here. And it's funny. He's great and he's unbelievably talented. Do you hear a lot of Celtics fans saying, how did we ever let him go? It's not like, Mookie Betts, where people look at him and say, God, why did we let him go? You look at him and you say, screw him. I know he's great, but he's not worth the headache. I don't like him. Nobody likes him. People like Kemba Walker. People like Jason Tatum. They don't like Kyrie Irving. They don't want to root for him. And I think you're right. They will be all over him Friday night. Whatever it is, 6,000 fans who are allowed in with their masks on for one more day. Those fans will be all over him. And you know what? If they get under his skin, if they heckle him and annoy him, he'll just make up something and say, oh, yeah, I heard some racism. And people say, oh, yeah, it happens all the time. Happens all the time? Again, give us an example. Give us an example. It's amazing that,
Honestly, ends his column today. There was no honor in the way Kyrie Irving left town, but Boston needs to be on its best behavior Friday. Kyrie just changed the rules of engagement. Boston needs to fucking make his night miserable, but guess what? Just don't be racist, which I expect you're not going to be.
So that's what Shaughnessy actually wrote that.
Yeah.
Somebody put a globe on my doorstep this morning. And my wife's like, what do you want me to do with it? I said, just throw it back out there. They littered. They didn't put, I don't want to get that crap off my doorstep. Boston Globe, don't litter on my doorstep. Get that garbage off my property. Shaughnessy actually wrote that. See, I'm so disappointed in Dan because he knows better and he's playing right into his hands. Boston must be on its best behavior. The whole reason he did this is to diffuse the crowd. He gets rattled. I'm not saying he chokes because he's a great, great player. But personally, he gets rattled when he gets heckled and attacked by the crowd. And when you do this, you kind of diffuse them. It's kind of a preemptive strike. Now, we know why Adam Jones made up what he made up. We know why Torrey Hunter made up, because they don't like the crowd here. They don't like the fans here. They get heckled. They get ridiculed by the fans. So what's the best way to fire back? If you fire back and just say, that guy was such a jerk, he called me a bum. No one cares. If you say, he called me the N-word, they go, whoa, there's Boston. We got to check the cameras and find out who it is and ban him for life. Even when they know, like, especially in the case of Torrey Hunter, even when they know they made it up, even when they know why he made it up, because he was frustrated. Hell, they threw stuff at Adam Jones. We saw it. They threw stuff at him. And all he did was say, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. That's crossing the line. No one would think twice. But he says, that's wrong. They yelled the N-word. People go, whoa. It becomes national news. All the usual people fall in line. And, Jamel Hills and the Dan Lebatards, they all fall in line, say it's awful. They did it again in Boston. And they know in their hearts it doesn't add up. Because if someone yelled that, there'd be a million people around them calling them out. Torrey Hunter didn't exactly think it through when he accused a group of kids at a game of chanting the N-word and the parents cheering them on. Nobody believed it. Nobody. On my old radio station, they asked Torrey Hunter, why would anyone make that up? And it's like, in defense of him. Is that really a question? Do we really want to know why they made it up? Do you want to know why, Jesse Smollett made it up? Do you want to know why Marcus Smart made it up in college? He got in a fight with a fan. The fan was a dink. He said, yep, call me the N-word. Immediately, he wins. Fight over. Fans on his heels. The fan is a suspect in a hate crime. It was proven later he made it up and he apologized. But in the heat of the moment, it's a perfectly understandable thing to do. And that's what Kyrie Irving did last night. He knows he's going to get ridden hard by the small crowd, the muzzled crowd in the Garden. Now you have Dan Shaughnessy calling for people to behave.
Game 3 is Friday night at the Garden. Celtics fans can't wait to boo Kyrie. Let's hope this is not ugly, not polluted by anything other than basketball hard feelings.
Christ, Dan, you are, so disappointed. That's exactly what he wanted, and you gave it to him. A warning to the fans, you better not cross that line.
Where are the greatest hits, though, by the way? No Jamel Hill tweet? No, not like a lot
It's still early. It's early.
You're right. You're right. It happened late.
You'll get it. You'll get it. You'll get Jamel Hill. You'll get whatever Cena. What's her name? Cena Anderson.
Yep, that's right.
You'll get Max Kellerman. You'll get the usual suspects. And what they do, they send out a memo at ESPN today on all the shows. Don't forget another ugly incident in Boston. And yet Kyrie, to his credit, didn't make up a specific incident the way Torrey Hunter did. He could have, and maybe he will if they get really vicious. But the problem is, it's such a lopsided series. Kyrie's going to win. Durant and Harden, they're going to win. The Celtics are going to go, with their heads hang low. They're going to go off into the offseason. You can't exactly. There'll be no reason for Kyrie after the game say, yes, I saw a guy in a green shirt and a white hat say whatever, the N-word, because it won't be that kind of bad blood. The Celtics aren't good enough to generate that kind of animosity between the teams. I don't think you'll have any kind of incident, but it is disappointing to read Shaughnessy.
Yeah. Actually, I just found this on Twitter. You want to hear from Perk? Perk commented on it late last night, and
I was watching Perk. I didn't hear this, but I was watching him coming down hard on the Celtics. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, let's hear from Kendrick Perkins well after the game.
I know that Celtic fans are some of the best fans in the world. I played there 8.5 years. I lived there for 8.5 years, and me personally, I never dealt with any type of racism while I was living in Boston. That's just me personally. I never dealt with it. I don't know. I also came back as an opponent of the Celtics, and I played. Well, I played there with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers, and still never experienced any racism.
I hope he would go on and say, I didn't experience racism. I was called an asshole when I didn't play well. You know what I mean? Like I was, people got on me, but it didn't mean it was
well,
racist.
That's always been my theory, that someone like Torrey Hunter, someone crossed, I mean, two things. Hecklers are all a-holes. If you've been around a heckler, a grown man, I'm not talking about a kid, but a grown man who heckles other grown men, in a game.
You haven't been to a youth hockey game, have you?
They're usually drunk, and they're usually a-holes. And they're sitting there going, you suck, Torrey, you suck, your mother sucks. I mean, that upsets some players. It upsets Torrey Hunter. It upsets Kyrie Irving. And their answer, either after the fact in the case of Torrey Hunter or preemptively in the case of Kyrie, is to get you to a point where you can't defend yourself, where there's no defense. Yeah, they used an N-word or they said something racist. Then what do you say? You turn into you roll over like, my friend Shaughnessy did and say, you better behave, Celtics fans. That's exactly what he was getting at. He wanted someone to tell Celtics fans to be careful, to not step out of line, to not cross the line. And you know what? If one you're a dope, Cullen, but you've been around enough to know, if one fan Friday night, yelled out, say the N-word, it would be every single fan around them would point them out, call security,
someone
shout them down.
Possibly there would be
there might even be a fight in the stands. I mean, it's just so absurd, which is why, and the Boston media, my old station, embarrassed itself when Torrey Hunter made that ridiculous charge that kids were chanting the N-word. If that ever happened at a Red Sox game or a Celtics or Patriots, whatever, in 2021, the people around them would go nuts. They would literally, if they had to, drag them out. They'd yell for security. They would point them out. They would videotape them and dox them. It would be ugly. Everyone knows that, but they can't admit it. Dan Shaughnessy knows that. He knows Kyrie just made this up as a way to put Celtics fans on their heels, and apparently it's working. And as you point out, we're just getting started. You got 2 full days, off days. You got 3 days before, you get technically Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to get the whole machine, fired up and get the Jamel Hills and the Max Kellermans and all the usual